Continuing along with this ongoing study session that we are in the middle of for the past number of classes. So again, as a reminder, or for the newcomers, we are studying a section in the Encyclopedia Talmudit, the Talmudic Encyclopedia. We're in volume Hey, which is 5, and we are in the section which is entitled Goy. Currently, we're on the bottom of page Shin Zayin, which would be the equivalent of 307. The last few lines, last paragraph, on the right-hand column, which is page Shin Zayin. We're in the middle, actually, of discussing vows that a non-Jew makes. How and when and if they're binding, to what extent, and so forth. So this is all part of the section on Goy. Gadol she'eino yodea lahaflos. An adult, someone who's over bar mitzvah, who does not know how to make a proper vow, meaning she'eino yodea l'shem mi nodar. He does not understand for the sake of whom he made his vow. Af al pi shebi Yisrael dvarav kayomim, even though with regards to a Yisrael, to a Jew, his words are still binding. And if an adult Jew who's over the age of bar mitzvah, he's legally a mature, adult, responsible Jew, when he makes a vow, a neder, even if he does not know, we asked him, we investigated, we tested him, and he does not have the proper knowledge, that's too bad. It's still binding, and he's still obligated. However, begoy she'eino yodea lahaflois ein nedarav klum. A goy, a member of any of the nations of the world other than being a Jew, who, even though he's an adult, by all accounts, but he does not know to whom he made that vow, he does not understand what that is, then all of his vows are null and void. Now, why the difference? Shenisma'et me'ish ki yafli ha'amur beparashas arochin. Because there is a certain language in the Chumash, in the text of the Bible, which excludes anyone who's not Jewish from the wording in the section of Arochin, which is, as we've mentioned, in the book of Vayikra, Leviticus, chapter 27. That would be Parshas B'chul Koisai. The word says, Ish ki yafli, shedavka b'yodea lahaflois, that it only applies if the individual knows how to make a vow. All right, so that is an accepted fact which is stated clearly in the Talmud. However, the interpretation and to the extent of what that means is disputed, as we're about to see. Okay. But what I said now, without explaining, that is that is accepted by all. Now, here's the argument. Yesh mefarshim, there are those commentators that explain as follows. That statement that we just said, that for a Jew, a Yisrael, if he's an adult, even if he doesn't know what the neder meant, he didn't understand to whom he made the vow, it's still binding and he has to keep it. And for the non-Jew, who's an adult, if he doesn't know to whom he made that neder, what it means, then it's not binding. Some say that it only applies with regards to the very specific type of a vow that we're discussing called arochin, which, briefly to remind everyone, that is when a person makes a vow by saying, my erech, my value, or the erech of so-and-so, and speaks about a specific person, is upon me. So then there's a list over there in Vayikra 27, a chart if you will, as to the gender and the age. Male or female, from age 30 days till age 5, from age 5 to 20, 20 to 60, 60 and above, and male, female. So, that in that case, whether we're going to go with those that as we discussed in the last class, that there are those that hold that non-Jews can make this type of a vow. So if the individual does not know how to do it, he doesn't understand what he did, even though he used the right wording. So if that non-Jew would have understood that when he says, Erech so-and-so is upon me, and he used an example of a Jew, but he didn't understand that by saying so he really does make a vow to God and therefore owe the money to the Holy Temple, so then they're exempt. Or whether it's with the opinion, as we learned in the last class, that some say that non-Jews cannot be ma'arich. He cannot say that the value, the erech of so-and-so is upon me. It's not binding. That was only said if he doesn't know, if he doesn't understand what it means when he makes this vow. And the whole dispute is only with regards to the ones making the vow. And some say that when we say that the goyim could make this type of a vow called an erech, it's even speaking about an adult who knows what he's saying. I'm sorry, when we say that they can't, when we say that they cannot make a vow, that they're not included in this type of a vow, that's even if it's an adult who understands exactly what he's saying. So some say that when we say that he doesn't know how to, he doesn't understand who he's making a vow, that's for all other regular vows, not this specific one, because we don't need to exclude him, because according to that opinion, he can't make that vow. So again, as a reminder, last time we learned that there's a dispute between the Mishnaic sages, whether a non-Jew, a goy, can make this erech using a Jew by saying that the value of so-and-so is upon me, or no, the non-Jew cannot make any statement of an erech, and he's never obligated to pay any money when it comes to an erech. Merely the Jew can use him as the article and say that the erech of so-and-so, who's not Jewish, is upon me, and then the Jew would have to pay that money. So if you're going to say the latter, well, then you don't have to exclude the adult guy who doesn't know to whom he's making this particular vow, because he's excluded anyway. So what does it mean? It's talking about all the other vows, because he can't make an erech anyway. But a regular vow, that's where he's excluded if he's an adult who does not understand to whom he made this vow. We have a rule that if it doesn't apply, in this case, like here, it wouldn't apply to the erech because he's excluded anyway, so then apply it to regular vows, to nedarim. Okay, so this dispute is between Rashi and the Tosfos as to whether it only applies to erech or to any type of a neder. Okay. When does the above apply? Only in the specific case of erech. Everyone agrees that regular goyim, an adult non-Jew, can make a vow and it's binding. Everyone agrees with that. Erchin is where it's disputed, but a regular vow, they're obligated. Meaning, Shim Omar, Domai Olai, Oidmei Ploini Olai, that if he didn't use erech, but he used the word demei, which means the real value of, and there you have to evaluate the person's actual value. There's no set chart that you go by, such as by erech, but basically you see what is the market value of this individual. How much would he be sold for in the market as a slave? So that varies according to the individual, and it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with his age. It actually has to do with his strength and ability and so forth. So there, that's a regular neder, and if the person wants to donate money to the temple, to the Beis HaMikdash, by saying, Dmei olai, domai olai, my value in that regard is upon me, then it's binding and he has to pay that amount of money. Noisin kfi nidroi, then he has to give according to his vow, Kama shani dar shave ke'eved animkar bashuk. What is the market value for this person to be sold as a slave? However, with the money that this non-Jew now has to donate, we don't use that money for the, it doesn't go into the regular fund, into the treasury of the Beis HaMikdash, of the Holy Temple. As we explained in the last class, it is forbidden, based on a verse that we quoted from Ezra, it's forbidden to accept donations, any type of donation, whether it's a nedava or a neder, which are two different types of donations, from non-Jews in order to strengthen the breaches or in order to keep the maintenance, the upkeep of the maintenance of the Holy Temple. We can't accept it. But this person has to give the money, though, to the temple. So what do? We can't accept it because of that verse that we quoted. So what do you do with the money? He's got to give it to the temple, but then the treasury of the temple is not allowed to accept it. So what we need to do is, the goy needs to be examined, he needs to be tested, and we need to find out what did he have in mind when he made that vow. Whose frame of mind, if you will, did he have in mind? Im nodar al das Yisrael, if he had in mind for the Jew, whatever the Jewish people think. That's what I mean. Then it's up to the discretion of the Beis Din, of the Jewish court. They can use that money for whatever they want other than the maintenance of the temple. And if he says, no, I didn't mean it for the frame of mind of the Jew, I meant it for heaven's sake. I meant it for God. Yigonzu. Then the money has to be buried, put away. Like what we call shemus, which basically is when you have holy things that can no longer be used, so they need to be respectfully buried in a cemetery. That's what's done with, let's say, a Torah scroll that's no longer repairable and usable, so it has to be respectfully buried. And we even do that with things that are not on that level of sanctity, even printed books and materials and things like that. And that's what has to be done with the money.
It was for the sake of heaven. That means he was thinking of it as being a mitzvah?
If sake of heaven means he meant to give it to the Beis HaMikdash. That's it. That's what he meant. That's the mitzvah. Normally when a Jew says, Domai Olai, he has to give it to the Beis HaMikdash. Okay. And if he says, I meant it according to whatever the Jewish people have in mind, okay, then he gave us a way out. So even though it's got to go to the temple, but because he had in mind Das Yisrael, so it's as if the Torah says, okay, Beis Din, you can use it for your as you see fit, for your discretion. But if he says, I meant it l'shamayim, I meant it to give it to God, well, then there's not much we can do. He's got to give it, but the temple can't accept it.
What's the Indian for that? Is that because burying and then resurrection and judgment or something like that?
Why is it buried? Yeah. Just respect. In other words, you can't burn it. That's disrespectful. So what do? I mean, you don't literally have to bury it. Actually, in the temple, there was a section over there where they had the stones of the broken altar that they couldn't use any longer, and that's where they were going. Geniza literally means hidden, put away. So technically it could be locked away in a room as long as it's respectful and it's safe and it's never going to be used or misused.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's what happens over here. So, one may think, oh, that's a shame. That's like a waste of money. What can you do? You're not going to melt it down and do anything else with it. It can't be used for anything. That's what it is. The yesh soivrim, but there are others that hold differently, and they say no. Shenidreim einam nignozim, that their vows, if they said domai or dmei so and so, the value, not erech, you don't put it away, you don't bury it or anything. Some say they do go to the maintenance of the Beis Hamikdash in that case. In other words, they would not apply the verse in this case. They would say this is an exception. The verse means if they're coming to donate money for the Beis Hamikdash directly, for the building of the Beis Hamikdash or something. But here, they say that the verse will not apply. And yet, a third opinion. V'yesh mefarshim, and there are those that explain, noidirim v'nidarim, what does it mean that they can make vows? She'omru, b'kachem izbeach. When it says that they can make a neder, they can make a vow, it's talking about those articles of sanctity, those sacrifices, which go onto the altar. However, anything which goes to the actual maintenance or the building or the upkeep of the Beis Hamikdash, according to Rebbe Meir, who uses this verse very strongly, then they do not. They can't make a neder. In other words, according to this third opinion, they can only donate a sacrifice, like a burnt offering. That's it. Or, as we discussed before, the whole controversy about bringing a sin offering, can they bring it on behalf of a Jew, and can they bring a shlamim, and if they, all that. But what they certainly can bring is a burnt offering, and that's it. So this extreme opinion is saying that when they could make a neder, they could make a vow and donate something to the temple, it specifically means something which will be brought as a sacrifice upon the altar. Anything else, they cannot. You see, normally, there are all sorts of donations that a Jew can make to the Beis Hamikdash, besides a sacrifice. Whether it, in sacrifices themselves, there's, in a certain sense, generally three categories. It could either be an animal, or a type of a bird, fowl, or a mincha, of a flower offering. Those are the three types that go onto the altar. Besides that, there are many, many other donations a Jew can make to the Holy Temple, which this might resonate in today's world with donations to institutions or to synagogues or what have you. In the Beis Hamikdash, in the temple, a person would be able to donate, let's say, a gold leaf or a gold grape or a gold cluster. They had certain places where they had these things hanging, and therefore a person could make that type of a donation, which we normally don't think about it in those terms when it comes to the Beis Hamikdash. You think about, well, that's today if you want to beautify some kind of a place, you want to put a plaque, so you want to donate, which, by the way, that also would have practical application today. Can a synagogue accept a donation from a goy? So it depends, Are they donating something specific, or are they just giving money? If they're donating something specific, like they say, I want to donate a light bulb, that may be a problem because of this verse, Lo Lachem V'Lonu. In other words, today a synagogue is a miniature sanctuary. So many of the things which apply to the Beis Hamikdash, the Holy Temple, also apply to a synagogue. Many do, many don't. But if he's just giving money, so that might go to, different things, that it's not specific. So therefore, when we do buy something with his money, it won't carry his name on it. For example, and, forgive me, but, I'm being serious, if he sponsored a year's worth of toilet paper. So you're not going to put any plaque in the bathroom by the roll of toilet paper saying donated by. That's not nice. It's not respectful. Nobody really wants that. And it's not, and his name won't even be, we're not going to even make the announcements and so forth. So that would be okay, because besides the fact that that's not part of the sanctuary anyway, in the olden days it would be an outhouse. So just because today with modern plumbing and all that, that's not part of the holiness at all. So that's a different, thing. So you don't even have to go to that extreme case. Question is, if let's say a guy wants to sponsor the electric bill or pay the rent, things like that. So that wouldn't be as problematic as donating a light bulb. Because if he's giving a light bulb, for example, that is a very specific, tangible, visible thing that he donated. Even if you don't put up a plaque. No, whatever. Just throwing out some of the discussion. I'm not, saying, in a clear way exactly what the halacha is. So in this case over here also. So when it comes to the Beis HaMikdash, what, according to this third opinion, which a guy can only give donations for the Kachei Mizbeach, things that are going to be offered on the altar, but nothing else. He cannot donate anything else. And they're constantly upkeep. We don't, again, necessarily think of it in such practical terms, but this is a building, a structure, which is very much used, some days more than others, and there are seasons when it's very busy, but every day there's sacrifices being brought. There's a lot of things which are needed. They need a lot of salt. They need a lot of oil, pure oil, olive oil. They need a lot of wicks. There's a lot of things going on daily in the temple. And, it needs upkeep. Yerushalayim, it rains, it can snow. There's different things. There's maintenance. Okay. We're on the bottom of page Shin Ches, which would be 308. Goy sheis nadev nedava lebedek habayis. What do you do if a guy donated money for the bedek habayis, for the maintenance, for the upkeep of the Beis HaMikdash? Very specific. Amr Rabbi Yechanan. So Rabbi Yechanan stated, Bitchila, at first, afilu mayim umelachin mekabelim mimenu. In the first instance, we don't even accept water and salt from him. Uvasoif, but at the end, davar hamesuyam, something specific, ein mekabelim, we don't accept. V'davar she'ein mesuyam mekabelim, and something which is not specific, we do accept. Which again would mean that if, let's say, it would be money, since that's not specific, because the money is just the means to acquire or to do whatever you need done.
Something specific.
The money is not specific.
Yeah, I know, but you can buy then something
Right, and that
specific.
would, right, exactly. But since he didn't designate, and he didn't say, I am giving you 100 shekels so that you can fix that crack in that wall, put plaster.
I wonder what the Indian behind that is and everything.
Because we don't want that Goyim should be able to have their name as part of the builders of the Beis HaMikdash.
Like I built that or something. I see.
Right. So if he paid for if let's say he just gave money and it went into the pot, even though it's at that time, let's say theoretically, the treasury of the Beis HaMikdash was down to zero, and they needed 1,000 shekel to do something, and came along one guy and donated 1,000 shekel, and the next day the workers were hired and it was done.
Yeah.
He still can't point to it and say, that's mine.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Why what?
Why it can't be that way?
Why it's not allowed?
Yeah.
Because the Beis HaMikdash, although it is, as the verses say, that all the nations are going to come there and flock to there, and it's the based tefillah l'chol ha'amim, it's the place of prayer for all nations, but nonetheless, this is the chosen home of Hashem for the Jewish people. No, if a guy is coming to the Beis HaMikdash, he's coming to God's home that's with the Jew.
Because technically you could have, unrealistic, but non-Jews giving 100% of the money or saying, then they could say, oh, it's actually ours or something like that. Maybe that's the reason, I don't know.
You're saying because they were afraid that they may then claim it's theirs.
Something, yeah.
I don't think that's...
It's not too far from...
Well, see, the source, again, is the verse that was speaking about the building of the second temple.
Okay.
When they came back out of the exile
Okay.
from Bavel.
Yeah.
And Ezra says, Loi lachem velanu. It isn't for you and for us together to build it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, is that where we're getting
You're
this
onto
from?
something there.
Yeah, that's the basis.
Oh, okay, because
Yeah.
the first temple, the king of Tyre,
Yeah.
donated a lot.
Yeah,
he
that's
was
Materials?
very-
He donated materials.
donated
Yeah, he
a
donated
lot
cedars
of
and,
towards it, and that created a pride issue that slowly caused Tyre to problems. Over generations, it caused by the end of the first temple era, that was something that really caused problems for the kingdom of Tyre, because they were attached to it and they felt a pride.
So in other words, the nations of the world need to feel that they are welcome visitors. Feel at home as a guest.
And Ezra said,
Yeah. The verse is, let's go back to find when it was quoted.
I'm sure there's probably some in the commentaries on there if I can find it.
Ezra 4:3.
Thank you so much.
Okay, now he's going to explain. That was a statement of Rabbi Yechanan, all right, that initially we didn't even accept water and salt, and at the end, you don't accept anything specific, but something which is not specific, you can. Now he explains. Davar mesuyam, something specific, hainu, this means, davar hanir ayin, something which is visible to the eye. That's Rashi's interpretation. Kegoin, for example, this is going to be the Rambam's example, even oikoira, a stone or a beam. And why don't we accept something specific? Sheginaihu, for it is disrespectful. V'oid, and an additional reason, shemisparim boy, because they pride themselves with it.
There you go, Bob.
And they say, here, that beam, I donated that, or my family, or my nation. V'yesh mefarshim, and some say, mishum lo elachem v'lanu. That's because of the verse. That's why we can't.
Oh, they make for themselves a name. Interesting.
Yeah. Yerushalmi. In Talmud Yerushalmi, nechliku amayroim badover. There is a dispute between the later rabbis, the Talmudic rabbis of the Talmud Yerushalmi, in regards to this. Rabbi Yechanan Amar Kedaita, Rabbi Yechanan says, like we just quoted, that initially we didn't accept even water and salt, but later on, if as long as it's not specific, that they could point a finger at, we accept it. Money is fine, but if it's a specific donation, we don't. That's his opinion. For Rab Shimon ben Lakish Amar, and his contemporary argues with him. He's actually his brother-in-law, and he says, Rab Shimon ben Lakish says, Bein bitchilo bein basoif, whether at the beginning initially or whether at the end, ein mekabli mehem. We do not accept from them loy davar mesuyam loy davar sheina mesuyam. Whether it is something specific or something non-specific, we don't accept any donations from them, says Reb Shimon ben Lakish. Mishum, and the reason is because of the verse in Ezra that it's not for you and for us to build together a home for Hashem. So therefore, he says we don't accept any donations from them for the maintenance or for the building.
Didn't something happen with the king of Persia there that he was it like did he get haughty about it or something when he said like you guys can go back and build the temple? They wanted to maybe make sure that he didn't get haughty and say like, well, actually, I built the temple.
There were those that wanted to delay the building because they were hoping to he would change his mind, right? Mm-hmm. Who were they? Who were those troublemakers that they were pretending to do it for a righteous cause, but their real intention was to hopefully cancel the building. You remember that? Something like that?
I'm going to go read it.
Do you remember? You know what I'm talking about?
I know they tried different
Who's they?
methods.
Who?
If it's a big issue, I don't want to have you guys spend a lot of time on it.
I think we touched upon it.
Oh, there you go. What's that?
It's so the cohorts is. I mean, who exactly they were, I'm not.
This is the disruption of the. This here. But Zerubbabel, along with Yeshua and the rest of the family heads of Israel, said to them, "It is not for you together with us to build a temple for our God. Rather, we by ourselves will build it for Hashem, God of Israel, as King Cyrus, king of Persia, has commanded us." Then the people of the land weakened the hands of the people of Judah and frightened them from building. The people of the land. Maybe. They hired advisors against them to disrupt their plans all the days of Cyrus, king of Persia, until the reign of Darius, king of Persia. During the reign of Ahasuerus, at the beginning of his reign, they wrote a calumny against the inhabitants of Judah and Jerusalem. Interesting.
It was marked down as the people of the land.
Yeah, people of the land. Haaretz, maybe?
Which verse was that?
I think it was right by 4:3 there, huh? Something like that. It might be a couple verses.
Haaretz.
That's when it uses the Nicker term, Haaretz.
Well,
That's funny.
Samaritans.
Oh, interesting. So the Kuthim. So it doesn't mean the people of the land in Persia, it meant people in the land of Israel, huh?
All right. Top of page Shin Tes 309. Yesh meharishonim mefarshim. There are those amongst the early commentators which explain shein kol ze omer el lodas Rabbi Yehuda, that all of the above, as to the whole dispute, to what extent can we accept a donation for the Beis Hamikdash from the Goyim, if at all, is only within the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda they're arguing. about what he says. Namely, shagoy ma'arich, that a goy could make a vow of an erech, v'nitvase al kol panim kedoshahi, and therefore his donation is holy if he makes a donation. So then the question is, vein donim eli mekablim hem. So the only question is, do we accept it? So, like we said before, perhaps we could accept it and do this, or maybe we have to just put it away and bury it. And some say no, that this argument is after Reb Meir, is even according to the opinion of Reb Meir, that says that you can't accept anything and they don't give any type of donation. Halacha Rabbi Yechanan. And the final ruling by the Rambam is like Rabbi Yechanan, that initially we don't accept anything. However, at the end, if the guy makes the donation, it cannot be something specific that you could point to. But if he just donates money, that is accepted.
Does it give the Rambam citation?
Yeah. In the laws of Matnes Aniyim, gifts to the poor, 8:8, chapter 8, halacha 8.
Thank you so much.
Let's take a quick look at that. Rambam Matnes Aniyim. That would be in Sefer Zra'im. Okay, thank you. Matnes Aniyim 8:8. Okay, and don't mind the censorship that, of course, once again, messed up. Akum. What? She's not able to kabayis. Let's just say a goy. A non-Jew who donated to the Beda Kabayis, to the maintenance of the Beis HaMikdash, ein mekablim mimenu lechatchila. We don't accept it in the first place, to begin with. But if they did take it from him, ein machzirin lo, you don't give it back to him. If it was something specific, for example, a beam or a stone, then you actually give it back to him, even if you already took it from him. Give it back. So that they don't have something specific in the Beis HaMikdash. And then he quotes the verse from Ezra. 4:3. However, continues the Rambam, for a synagogue, for Beis HaKnesses, for a house of worship, then you can accept it even in the first place. But that is provided, the condition is that the guy says, I'm donating it according to the knowledge or the mindset of the Jew. But if he didn't say that, ton gniza, then you have to put it away, because maybe he meant it directly to God, and then we can't do that.
That's a problem.
Okay, that's the next part it's going to say here. Yeah, so that's very interesting. So when you take a donation, when the synagogue takes a donation from the guy, it would be important to specify that he's donating it L'das Yisrael, that you guys could do whatever you see fit. But if he says, no, I want to make a donation to God, and how am I supposed to do that? Nowadays there's no temple, so I want to give it to the synagogue. That's a problem.
Yeah. It'd be like turning into the Tower of Babel, heaven forbid. Because didn't the people make a temple and they wanted to make a name for themselves or something like that?
Well, you're saying that.
Oh, he's doing it for the sake of heaven. He's not making a name for himself. He's doing it for the sake of heaven.
But he could say it would be really bad if he said, I'm doing it for the sake of heaven. Then he goes, see, that's mine. Or something like that.
A Jew could do that.
Really?
Why not? That's what they do.
Oh.
They put up a plaque all the time. Or even if not, he donates something specific, and then he could say, that's mine.
Oh, I thought there would be some kind of thing about making a name for yourself, or that would be a problem. Oh,
No.
okay. Well, it shoots
As long as he's doing it for the sake of heaven. But
But if he's doing it but if a non-Jew does it for the sake of heaven,
that's a problem.
and he's honestly doing it for the sake of heaven,
Right.
okay, so why is that a problem?
Because we're not supposed to accept it from him. You're saying if
But
it's
why?
not something specific? You're saying if it's just money?
Yeah, if he's doing it for the sake of heaven.
Well,
He says,
because of the verse.
he's going to say, here's money, it's for the sake of heaven. I mean, how would it not be according to the discretion of the Jews anyway?
no, just like we said about the Beis HaMikdash. If he said it's for the sake of heaven, we said it's got to be buried, right?
Yeah, but why? I mean, if it's for the sake of heaven, and he's handing it to the priest, then obviously the priest is going to use it as he sees fit.
No, not
For
necessarily.
the sake of heaven, there's no strings attached.
Well,
So what's the difference between saying it's for the sake of heaven and saying it's for however the Jew sees fit?
if he says, for how the Jew sees fit, so then he's saying, of course, I'm giving it because it's a holy thing and all that, but I'm giving it that you guys can decide how and what to do with it. So that's fine. So it's like it removes his direct association with it. He gave it. He made the donation. Wonderful. Now we can use it. But if he says it's for the sake of heaven, so now it doesn't matter what we use it for. It's like he's directly building the Beis HaMikdash, and that we can't allow.
Also, the other case is he's giving it to the Jew to use as the Jew sees fit.
Well, not just giving it to the Jew to do whatever he wants, but he's donating it to the Beis HaMikdash. But his mindset is Das Yisrael. It's the Jewish people's discretion, how to use it for the Beis HaMikdash. So because he stipulated it that way, that's fine, as long as he had that in mind. So even though it's still going, he's accomplishing what he wants to come close to God, he wants to make a donation to the Beis HaMikdash. That's fine, because he's doing it vis-a-vis the Jewish people. Whereas you go directly, even though there's a treasury and there's an office and but because he donated it straight for the sake of heaven, that will be a problem.
Have you guys got into the Gerim Gerurim, that the non-Jews that make the temple?
I don't think he's going to get into that. Second. Yeah. There is an argument between the Rishonim as to what it means in the language of Rabbi Yechanan when he says Tchila v'soif, beginning and end. He said at the beginning you don't accept it, even water and salt, but at the end, if it's something specific, you accept it. You don't accept it. If it's something which is not specific, then you could. Okay, what does that mean? Yesh mefarshim, some interpret, bitchila, what it means to say in the beginning, hainu bitchilas habinyan, meaning when you're building it in the first place, for the actual building of the Beis HaMikdash, that's when we don't accept it. Shema mechavnim l'rifyin yadayim. Why? Oh, this is what we were looking for. Because maybe their intention is actually, it looks like they're doing a very noble thing. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's actually a bad intention that they have in order to weaken for however that works.
Oh, yeah, like sabotage.
Right. In some way or another. They want to weaken the.
It reminds me of Tanya, actually. The kindness of nations type thing.
Interesting.
That's interesting. That's actually like a Greek thing. Beware of Greeks bearing gifts type thing. That's a good point. And who made that point? One of the Rishonim?
Rashi.
Rashi, interesting.
Okay, so let's see everything here. Yeah. Meaning, if they start making donations, okay, this is what we were looking for, right? If they start making donations and we rely on their donations, that means that they now can have an opinion. You know how it is.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
donor suddenly starts giving his opinion.
Not only that, but why would you need them in the first place? If you needed them, then it might be a problem.
Well, if they want to donate, so we need to reject it. Why? Because if they donate it, that means we're going to have to listen to them, and they're going to come up with all sorts of suggestions of how we can postpone the building.
The Amharitz.
Actually, it was until they can convince Koresh not to build it. That's
There you go.
Yeah. So that's what they wanted. We're concerned. Not necessarily is every guy like this,
Yeah.
but that's the concern.
Yeah.
We don't know. And maybe this person who's so nice and so noble and so righteous and he's making a donation, maybe it's only so that he has an in and we have to listen to his suggestions. And therefore, he wants to prolong the building so that he's hoping to be able to get Koresh to have a change of heart. Therefore, that's what it means originally. Okay, now that problem only applies
To people
in the first place when it comes to the actual building of the Beis HaMikdash. Once it's already built, there's no problem.
Yeah.
So that would be.
That's what he was.
That's what Betchila means. That's how Rashi. That's the first interpretation of Betchila.
The first and the last.
So that's Betchila, right?
Betchila?
Betchila at first.
Oh, at first, okay. Oh, okay. But the maintenance.
Ulevasayif, where are we here? The oid, and another thing, sheish lachush pen yachzuru bohem. Another interpretation is, or another reason, they might regret what they donated. And they're going to complain. And they're going to say, we have a share in the Beis HaMikdash. It's ours too. No. You made a donation. Once you donated it to God, what do you mean it's yours? It's your mitzvah. It's your reward. It's not yours. That's the whole point of a donation. No, so that's what we're afraid of. I mean, you can have it even today. Somebody can make a big donation, and then afterwards they could say, that's mine. You say, no, it's not. Yeah. And, it even happens today in institutions. People go to donate a lot of money, and then afterwards they have no say in how the institution is run. And that's really the way it should be. I mean, unless they stipulated a condition and they said, I want to be on the board, I want to have this, whatever, fine. But if a person makes $1 million donation to a certain school, let's say, and then the school does things that he doesn't approve of, doesn't like, so what do you want? You want your money back? No. You want us? Yeah, I want to be able to call the shots. No, you're not a board member. But I donated $1 million. Thank you. What do you want us to do? We gave you a plaque. We gave you a letter. We put your picture in the paper. What do you want? I want you to listen to me. No. So that's what we're concerned with. That the goyim might then have that attitude. Ulav asoif. So what does it mean at the end that we do accept it if it's not something specific? Hainu lechazik es bitkoy. That means after it was already built. So just to strengthen the breaches, that's fine. Shetanyim elu einam sheichim sham, because these reasons no longer apply. It's only initially in the building that those two problems could apply.
So they want to be in the foundation of it.
Right. Once it's already. The only thing is that even at the end, after it was built, and it's already been standing for hundreds of years, and they're just paying for the maintenance, why don't we accept something specific? It can't be a beam or a stone. Lest it be for some glorification. It'll be beautiful. And we don't want...
Make a name.
Yeah.
See, I would think even Jews, they don't really do that. Even though they put names on stuff, they don't.
That was one opinion. That was Rashi, basically. The Yesh Mefarshim and others interpret Bitchila. What does it mean in the Gemara that at first we don't accept anything from them? That means to say that there was no fear of the nations of the world upon the Jews. That's why initially we had no fear, so we were able to reject any and every donation in any way, shape, or form. But at the end, they changed and they said, let's accept it because they already had fear of the nations of the world.
I don't quite understand that.
In other words, there's a difference between, let's say, the first Beis HaMikdash and the times of Solomon. The Jewish people were so strong, so mighty. They weren't afraid of anybody. So therefore, at that point, they can say, we don't want to accept. But later on, times of the second Beis HaMikdash...
But they did.
Fine.
But they had the power to accept... they overruled. They weren't scared of...
Yeah, I think it would be the other way around, right?
They weren't scared of Goyim giving because, what are you going to do to us type thing.
Okay, so Rashi brings down the second interpretation as well.
Oh.
And he says, but the first interpretation is the main one. That's what we should go with. He brings down the second opinion that Bitchila at first means when there was no fear of the non-Jews upon the Jews, then we don't accept anything. And when it says, but at the end we accept it, that's when we're in a state of being afraid of them. But the first interpretation is the main one. And then he rejects it. He says, you know why? Because the whole period of the second temple, they were afraid of the non-Jews.
The whole period, right?
Of the second temple. And at the beginning, it was actually more fearful than at the end. The beginning of the second temple, when they were first building it, they had more fear. So the Rashi says, therefore, that interpretation doesn't really, sit well. And if you're going to say that Bitchila, it first means by the first temple, so it says then the Gemara further won't make sense because it's talking clearly about the second temple. Yeah, and the reason why we don't accept something specific, Rashi brings two reasons. One, because it's gnai, it's not respectful. And number two, because they might glorify themselves by saying that I donated that. Whereas if it's just that they gave money, then they can't point to something specific and say that was my donation.
I gotta look at. I wonder if that's similar to the thing in Bava Kama, the Bava Kama 38, like, because Goyim don't keep, they used to keep the 7, but they don't now. It's okay to accept money, and there's something there, I forget what it is. But it's like it can be pooled, and you can use it for good or something, like you can do something with it.
Bava Kama 38?
I think 28 or 38. There's a big story. It might even be like 36 to 38. And it talks about how Bnei Noach used to be Mitsuva Va'ose, and then they forgot Hashem, so Hashem loosed them or something, and
38. Yeah. That's right, very good. Right, once they did not keep the 7, so therefore their money becomes like permitted for the Jew to have the property, in the sense that we're talking about an animal doing damage. So why?
Oh, that's why it's in Bava Kama.
Yes.
This is all coming together. This is great.
This is where it says, Reb Meir says, how do we know that Afilu Nochri, and he's Oisek in Torah, that he's like a Kohen Gadol? That's where it is.
Yeah, it goes on. Like, it's a really interesting section. Like, there's a lot there.
Yeah. All right. Ella, the only thing is, according to this opinion, that V'yesh Mefarshim, a third opinion. What does it mean in the beginning and the end? B'tchila b'muvan lichatchila. When it says it first, it means in the first place. The preferred thing is. Preferably don't accept from them any type of a donation. Ulavasoif, what does it mean at the end? Hainuk shekvar kiblu mehem ein machzirim. That's the Rambam's interpretation here in the laws of matnis and of matnis aniyim. Yeah. That lechatchila and b'diavad. In the first place, don't accept it. But if you already took it, do you have to give it back or not? So if it's a davar misuyam, if it's a specific thing like a particular brick, a stone, or a beam, give it back even though you took it. But if you accepted a donation of something which wasn't specific, then you need not give it back. Okay. Next.
Wow, a lot of stuff going on there.
Ein mekablim mehagoyim. We do not accept from Goyim anything for the wall of Yerushalayim. We're not talking about the Holy Temple. We're talking about the wall that surrounds the city of Yerushalayim, or for its towers. And not for the water ditches. They didn't really have plumbing yet. They had bodies of water, like for the pilgrimage that people would come. So it's a.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
So it's basically a hole in the ground that
water reservoir. I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
The specific term for it.
So we don't accept that either from them. Shenemar, because of the verse. This is in Nehemiah, right near Ezra, Nehemiah 2:20. Which oftentimes, when cited, the book of Nehemiah is called Ezra, even though it's a separate book.
Oh, I didn't know that.
A lot of times in the literature, you'll see it says Ezra, and you say, I can't find it. Try looking in Nehemiah.
Wow, interesting.
Ezra 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, really? It's called that?
I think so.
Okay. Nehemiah 2:20.
Cistern?
Very good. There you go, Bob.
Cistern. Oh, good. Okay, thanks. You must be a digger. Okay. Okay, so this verse. Okay, this is the last verse in chapter 2 in Nehemiah. He says, V'lochem ein chelek utztaka v'zikarin b'Yerushalayim. And you have no portion nor merit for remembrance in Yerushalayim. So not only the Beis HaMikdash, but they cannot even build the wall nor the towers or anything of that sort of Yerushalayim. V'chein, likewise, kishehisnadev hagoy ma'ois ledvarim ha'elu. When the guy donated money for these things, he didn't bring a huge stone. He gave money for the building of the wall. Or he wants to work for free. He says, I'm a builder. I have a company. I would like to sponsor. So I'm going to send over, I'll come myself, and I want to work. In mekabli mimenu, we don't accept it. Thanks, but no thanks. Okay, that's the Rambam's ruling in the Rambam, the laws of Shkolim, chapter 4, halacha ches.
Shkolim. Is that money? The plural form of money?
Well, that's where he speaks all about the half shekel that the Jew has to give annually. So shekel is the coin. So there's the laws of shekalim in the Rambam.
That was what was that again?
Chapter 4, halacha ches. Shekalim.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. But nonetheless, davar sheina mesuyam, something which is not specific. Im kiblu, if we did accept it, they shouldn't have, but if they accepted it, ein machazirim, we don't give it back to them. Shlo yehei din Yerushalayim chomer midin ben hakabais, because you can't say that the rule of Yerushalayim should be any stricter than the rule of the actual temple. And just like the Rambam ruled that in the first place, don't accept it. But if they gave it, as long as it's not something specific, you can keep it and use it. So certainly that would apply to the Yerushalayim. So if the guy made a donation and he said, here's the money, I would like to sponsor part of the building of the wall, you shouldn't accept it. But if you did, don't give it back and use it for the wall. Because it can't be stricter than the actual temple. Nadar stam. How about if the guy made a vow, he didn't specify. Stam. Just plain made a vow. V'omar, and then he said, Al das Yisrael nadarti, that I did it in according to the Jewish people's mind frame.
Wow.
Yetziu based in b'mashir Elohem chutz mibedek Yerushalayim. So they should use that money, whatever the Jewish court sees fit, except for the wall of Yerushalayim. Just like you can't, same thing, same rule that applied. Use it for whatever you want, but don't use it for the actual maintenance of the Beis HaMikdash. Same thing over here. It should not be used for the maintenance of the wall of that. He's nadiv davar lebeis hakneses. A guy donated something to a shul, a synagogue, a house of worship, which we have today as well. Mekabli mimenu lechatchila. That we accept even in the first place. That's okay. Imam al das Yisrael ifrashti. If he says, I donated it according to the mind frame or the thought of the Jewish people. V'ivnenu Yisrael b'veis hakneses, and then the Jew uses that money for the Beis HaKnesses, for the house of worship. Sharei zeh k'may karban, because that's considered like a sacrifice. That he can for sure do. That's the one thing everybody agrees on, in all the controversial opinions that we had before, that at least a burnt offering, a non-Jew can donate.
So it's like an offering in his place rather than the Beis HaMikdash.
No, Beis HaMikdash. A guy can donate a burnt offering for the Beis HaMikdash.
Oh, yeah, but in that time, I'm sorry.
Right, so nowadays when a guy is giving something to a Beis HaKnesses, it's no problem. Sha'goyim noidim v'noidim ki Yisrael, because goyim can make vows and donations just like Jews can. So that's okay. If it's not something specific, then even in the first place, even lechatchila, we can do it. We can take it. V'im lo yomar kain, but he didn't say so. He didn't say I'm doing it according to the Jewish people's das. Ton gniza needs to be put away. Needs to be buried.
Interesting.
Why? Shem aliba l'shamayim. Perhaps his intention was for God. If he didn't specify that I'm giving it according to the Jewish people's mindset, whatever you guys decide to do with it for your synagogue, but if maybe
That's getting to my Inyan. Interesting.
How are we comparing this to like
But
a
otherwise it has to be
korban?
burned.
no, if a carbon he can for sure bring.
Yeah.
Okay, so if he says I am donating this money for the Jewish people to do what they want, that's fine. But once he says, I'm donating this for heaven's sake, so that's not like a carbon. That's like making a donation for the actual building of the Beis HaMikdash, which in this case is for the building of the synagogue. And that's not acceptable.
But if he brings a korban to the temple,
That's fine. Then, of course, he's doing it for heaven's sake.
that would be similar to giving it as the Jew sees fit.
Somehow, yeah. In other words, today, when there's not a temple, his donation to the synagogue as the Jew sees fit, or that is somehow akin to giving a sacrifice. Now you're asking, how is that? Right?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the Shulchan Aruch, Jewish code of law. Laws of charity, laws of tzedakah. Yeridea, Reish Nun Daled. Okay, let's digress for a moment. This is the section in the Shulchan Aruch, the Jewish code of law called Yeridea, and this is chapter Reish Nun Daled 254, the laws of not accepting tzedakah from others. And it says as follows. Law number 1. It is forbidden for a Jew, meaning a poor Jew, to accept tzedakah, charity, from, it says Ovid Kechavim, but again, probably censorship, from a non-Jew in public, and if he's not allowed to survive with the tzedakah that he receives from the Jews, if he's not, if the poor Jew cannot survive, he doesn't get it. If he's unable to survive, he's not getting enough funds.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like somebody's like trying to kill him.
No. If he cannot survive based on the tzedakah he's getting from the Jews, and he's unable to take the tzedakah from the non-Jew in private and secret, then he's permitted to take it in public. So it could only resort to taking tzedakah from a non-Jew in public.
Under duress or something.
Right. Otherwise, he cannot accept it from
Does it
them.
say under duress there? Or no, just can't.
Well, the exact language.
Yeah.
Asur liyisrael litoil tzedakah min ha'ovet kechavim b'farhesya. A Jew is not allowed to take tzedakah from the non-Jew in public. V'im eino yochel lichyos, and if he's unable to live b'tzedakah shel Yisrael with the charity of the Jews, v'eino yochel litla me'ovet kechavim b'tzina, and he's unable to take it from the non-Jew in private. Hareze mutar. Behold, this is permitted.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Next. Now, number 2. An officer, like a high-ranking official of the non-Jews, that sent money to a Jew for charity, for tzedakah purposes. You don't return it. You don't give it back because of shloi malchus, because we want to keep good terms of peace with the government. But rather, he takes it. And what you do with the money is give it to the poor of the goyim secretly, so that he doesn't hear about it.
So, okay. I know where this is going.
So
I don't want to get into it.
So the non-Jew wants to make a donation to the Jewish cause. So he sent, this non-Jewish officer, the mayor of the city or something, he sent money to the Jewish fund that distributes to the poor Jews. What they should do is make sure he doesn't find out and take that money and distribute it to the poor non-Jews of the city.
Does it say make sure he doesn't find out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Shaloish mahasar. Absolutely.
That'd be difficult.
And on that the Ramah says, and some say that you should do with it whatever the officer did say to do. Don't try this trick.
How did you know it was the Ramah who said that? The parentheses?
Haggah. No. In the Shulchan Aruch, the regular bold print is the Mechaber, the Beis Yosef. And then the Ramah, the Ashkenazi Poisek, is prefaced with Haggah, note. And then it's Rashi print.
Haggah. Oh, okay.
Haggah means note, gloss, and then it's Rashi print.
Oh, okay.
So the Ramah, he brings down that some say, do with the money whatever this non-Jewish officer said to do with it.
Okay.
And all of the above is specifically when they give money for tzedakah. However, if they're donating something to the Beis HaKnesses, to the synagogue, you accept it from them. But, okay, then he says, but not, okay, that's something else, but not mina mumar, not from a heretic, from a Jew who's a heretic, that's a different thing. Okay.
So that was an Ashkenazi guy. That was for the Ashkenazi, like...
The Ramah is what the Ashkenazim
Interesting. So is he ruling in regards to the Christian kingdoms that they were in, or?
Well, they're not getting into the difference.
Yeah,
the Ramah lived, he lived in Poland. That's true. And
That's really interesting.
Yeah. But now we have the commentary of the Shach, the Sifsei Kohen, on the Ramah, when he says that if they're donating it for the Beis HaKnesses, you accept it from them. All right. He says the reason is because it's like a karban, like a sacrifice, that you accept karbanes from the non-Jews. And why is it like a karban? This is to answer your question. Like, because obviously there was some, it was missing the explanation. Like it says because a karban, even a burnt offering, even if it's not a sin offering, atones. It's an atonement. So to tzedakah atones. Therefore, if the non-Jew wants to give tzedakah, as long as it doesn't have any problem, like being a davar mesuyam, or being a specific thing, with all those problems that it has, as long as that's not the case, we can accept it. Why? Because we can. So in other words, we now have to make a little bit of a switch in the whole logic over here. Can a non-Jew, can a goy, participate in the building of the Beis Hamikdash? No. Okay. And then you have the B'tchila and B'soif, beginning and the end, whatever the different ways of understanding that. Fine. Why can't they participate? Why? Because there's a verse that says so, and then we have a few reasons how to explain that. Fine. Can a non-Jew bring a sacrifice? Sure. Carbon oila, a burnt offering. Okay. Can a non-Jew bring an atonement? Yeah, he could. Okay. So can a non-Jew donate money to the Beis Hamikdash? Well, it depends. If he said that I mean it for the Jews to use at their discretion, that's fine. That's how he's donating money. That's like a carbon, even though we don't have to buy an animal and sacrifice it. We can do what we want, but that's how he is atoned for. Okay. But if he says, I mean it for Hashem's sake, then there's a problem because he gave money directly to the Beis HaMikdash, which means it's for the maintenance. That means he's building it. That goes back to the verse, which is a problem. So the same thing would apply in the synagogue. If he makes a donation, if he says, I donated it al das Yisrael, then the Jews could use it to build the synagogue, because that's like a carbon. V'im lo yomar came, but if not, then we assume he meant it directly for the synagogue, and a synagogue is a miniature sanctuary of the temple, like the temple. And then you go back to that problem of it being the verse that says you can't participate in the building of the temple, and therefore you have to take his money and bury it like the case with the temple.
Why going on?
So Shema Liba L'Shamayim, maybe his intention is directly for heaven's sake. V'niskavi lahaktish, and he meant to sanctify it. He meant to donate this money for the synagogue, not as a donation for an atonement and therefore do what you want. No. V'hektish bizman hazeh ein letakona. And nowadays, hektish is a big problem.
Hekdesh.
Yeah, to sanctify something.
Sanctify.
That's a big problem, even for a Jew to do, because there's no Beis HaMikdash. If a Jew nowadays says that this, whatever it is hektish, he really has a big problem on his hands, because unfortunately there is no Beis HaMikdash. So you cannot do anything with it, can't redeem it. So it's like, what are you going to do with it? And you could be makdish anything. In the times of the temple, let's go back. Times of the temple,
Okay.
A Jew can be makdish anything he wants. He could be makdish his field, which basically means his field now became holy, and it was donated to the Beis HaMikdash, and then there's rules of how to redeem it and make it unholy. Someone else can buy it, pay the value to the temple, and then it belongs to that other person. And now the temple received the value, the money. The owner himself can redeem it, but he's got to pay 25% extra. There's rules. Okay, that's if I want to do, if I want to be makdish my field. Okay, I could be makdish my clothes. That means the clothes then physically go. You have to bring it to the Beis HaMikdash. Now they have no use for it. It's not proper clothes for kohanim. So what are we going to do with a bunch of your neckties and underwear? You know, we have no use for that. It belongs to the Beis HaMikdash. They then can sell it, and with the money, they now have money for whatever they need. A person can be makdish his house. Okay, that's like a field. That's real estate. A person can be makdish his animals. He didn't specify that it's a sacrifice. He's makdish the animal. Okay, well now it became property of the Beis HaMikdash. A person can be makdish non-kosher animals. That's fine. He can be makdish his horses and his donkeys. That's fine. It now belongs to the Beis HaMikdash. What are they going to do with it? It's property. It's worth money. They now can sell it. So there's a whole treasury. Okay. So that all works when you have a temple. Now, the problem is that one does have the power to do that even when there is no temple. A Jew verbally can be makdish his own. I can't be makdish someone else's. I never could. He could be makdish his own. So if a Jew today says that I have a horse, I have a horse, and then he's makdish the horse, that's a wonderful thing that you did, but it's quite foolish, because now what? There is no temple for the horse to be brought to. And you can't ride that horse now. You can't sell the horse. What are you supposed to do? So it's definitely not a desirable thing to do. Okay. A person can have a bar of gold and be makdish it. Wonderful. When there's the temple, you just gave them a bar of gold. That's wonderful. Nowadays, what in the world are you going to do with that? So it's not as bad as a live stock or a horse or something. Okay, but now you have to realize this is hektish, and you believe in Mashiach, you believe in the rebuilding of the third temple happening now. Okay, so put that bar of gold aside and be ready to bring it. But don't let it get mixed up. Don't let it, there's nothing you can do with it. It's a bar of gold which now belongs to the temple, which isn't here yet. Okay. So, therefore, if the non-Jew makes a specific donation and he's having in mind l'shamayim for heaven's sake when he's donating it to the Beis HaKnesses, it's a problem. And therefore, it's got to be buried. What can you do with it? It is Hekdesh. He donated it for the holy purpose. And since you can't use it for the Beis HaKnesses because of the verse, the Yesh Mefarshim and others interpret it very differently. They say, no, the reason, they agree with the halacha, the same law, but they give a very different reason. They say the reason why you have to bury it if he didn't specify that he's doing it according to the Jews' mind frame. Shema belibo yachshiv l'avodah zara, perhaps lest he think in his heart for idolatry. Oh. So he's donating it to a Beis HaKnesses, very nice, but maybe his intention is avodah zara, and we can't do that. So that's a very different reason. It's pretty much the opposite reason.
But you don't know, so you bury it.
That's right. That's right. If he says, I'm donating it al das Yisrael, fine. Okay, so you gave it on our discretion, and we're, of course, going to use it for building the synagogue for the sake of heaven.
But if he doesn't
say that, then we're afraid that it's not heaven's sake, but quite the opposite, which is obviously no good. The donation of a goy is stricter than the donation of a Jew.
Can that happen? Can a non-Jewish thing be more strict than...
Well, listen to what he means.
Okay.
What do we mean? You're not allowed to exchange it, even for the sake of a mitzvah, until the name of the original owner is completely forgotten from it. Why? Lest the guy say, I donated something for the Jewish people's house of worship, for their synagogue, and they sold it for themselves. And that would be a desecration of Hashem's name. That would be a chilul Hashem. We're not afraid that a Jew would do that. So, if a Jew donates whatever it is for a synagogue, and then they switched it for a different mitzvah. Let's say there was a case of redeeming someone, pidyon shvuyim, to redeem a captive, which is the biggest mitzvah. Okay? And someone was kidnapped, and there's a ransom. So they decided, look, we have 15 beautiful chandeliers in our synagogue. Let's take one down, let's sell it, and with that money, let's redeem those poor people that were kidnapped. Okay. Hey, some Jew donated that chandelier. When did he donate it? He donated it 10 years ago. So, do people still call it so-and-so's chandelier? Yeah, no problem. Because we're not afraid that the Jew is going to say, hey, I donated money and they sold it for themselves. But by a guy, we are concerned. And therefore, if he donated what ended up becoming a chandelier or whatever, we need to wait until no longer is there an association by name of that guy to that, or whatever, the family or the nation, to that chandelier.
So it is a name thing.
Right. Because we're afraid that he's going to say, oh, those Jews, they sold what I donated for, themselves. Okay, let's do another paragraph. We are now page Shin Yud, 310. Asur li Yisrael litoil tzedakah min hagoy b'far hesya. This is what we just saw in the Shulchan Aruch. It is forbidden for a Jew to take tzedakah, charity, from the goy Not like it says in the printed versions of Akum or Reiv de Kechavim or whatever. That's obviously, the censored version. It is forbidden for a poor Jew to take tzedakah from a goy in public. Shemivaze atzmei b'farhesia, because he is disgracing himself in public. V'yesh b'davar chilul Hashem, and that is a disgrace.
Whoa.
It's a desecration of Hashem.
Desecrations of the name can happen a lot. Like it's something that can come very easily. It seems like.
Well, pretty much, if a Jew publicly does a sin, that's a chilul Hashem. In other words, if a Jew does it in private, that's a sin between him and Hashem. But once he does it in public, so there's the added terrible element of chilul Hashem. So, if he's accepting it from the goy in public, that is a chilul Hashem. And if he's unable to survive with the tzedakah he receives from the Jew, and he cannot accept it from the goy in private, it's just not feasible. So in that case, behold, that is permissible. Okay. Gabbai tzedakah.
That's the ruling of the Ramah. No,
The Shach.
the Shah.
But the Rambam says the same thing.
Okay.
So going all the way back to the Rambam, that is the Rambam's ruling as well, based on the Gemara. Okay. Gabbai tzedakah. Why do you say that in English? The collector
Gabbai, the collector
of charity?
charity.
Yeah, there's probably a better word, more accurate. Sexton? Nah. Gabbai.
Treasurer? No.
Treasurer. I think actually collector maybe. Okay. Gabbai tzedakah, the collector of the charity, also the kabbalah tzedakah mi'agoy. He's not allowed to accept tzedakah from the goy. He's not the poor man. He's the one going around collecting.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting.
Shenemar, for the verse states, this is a verse in Yeshaya, Isaiah, Chav Zayin Yud
Does
Aleph.
that apply to you, Bob?
Well,
Somehow?
he's wondering in shul when they go around with pushka.
Well, no, you got the guys that walk around that they come in from the street, they walk around, they got the little cards.
Most of them, I think, are collecting for themselves. That's not Gabbai tzedakah. That is the poor man.
That's why they have the green card.
Well, no. Some people are coming.
You're right. That's true. You're right. Yeah.
Some
I
people
forgot about that.
officially are collecting for an institution, and then they get a percentage of what they collect.
So that's why we have to study Torah, Bob.
So now, when they come over to you and they ask you for a donation, you tell them "Ani goy," and then the guy says, "Is your money green?" And then you tell him.
Well, it's at his discretion. I give it to him. I don't read the card. I give it to him. I assume it's at his discretion how he's going to handle it.
This is a great question. So, oh my goodness. So we're in Shin
This
Yud.
is Shin Yud. That's the page. When a page is over here, it means column. That's how the pageation is.
Oh,
Not even a side and not.
but it goes
not
through the
folio.
whole way book. I mean, you can know
Yeah.
where you are in the book.
Yeah, Shin Yud.
basically.
Shin Yud. Yeah. Yeshaya. Where did we say there? Isaiah. Chav Zayin Yud Aleph.
I'm going to ask this guy. What's the rabbi's name who did the editing?
What?
Who is this? Goldenstein?
Did what?
editor? Who does this?
What are you talking about?
Who's a rabbi who edits the book? There's an editor, yeah.
The Encyclopedia Talmudit?
Yeah.
This was Rabbi Zevin who passed away decades ago.
Oh.
What do you mean? What do you want to ask him?
I want to ask him about this. This is
Wait.
a good question.
What? I think. Hold on.
Okay,
Hold on. Chav Zayin Yud Aleph. Okay. This is.
Is it a question for you or no? I don't.
Wait a second. Let's see what he says. Okay. The verse takes as follows: Bivoish Ketzira Tisha Varna. Yeah, where are we quoting over here? Yeah. When it's Boughs, Boughs. means what you harvested. B-O-U-G-H. What does that mean in English?
Your bows, like
I don't know, you tell me.
when the bows wither, the branches, like I think they were branches.
Branches?
When the bough breaks, when the bow breaks, yeah.
When its boughs wither, they will break.
That verse 11?
Yeah.
What are we even talking about? I don't know. I'm lost now.
Here, it says like-
What? This is the proof?
Wait a second. Okay.
We're in.
Okay. Oh, okay. Here's where we're going. Gabbai tzedakah is not allowed to take tzedakah from a goy. Why? Because of this verse that says, "Bivoish k'tzira tishavarna," that when its bows wither, they will break. Meaning, kishetichle zchus shebeyadam yishavru. When the merit that they have in their hands, these goyim, then they will break. When they lose their merit. And therefore, you're supporting them and you're helping them. Okay? So then, without getting into anything controversial of what's happening in the whole discussions going on nowadays, but this would seemingly, at least according to the article of Reb Aaron Soloveitchik, that whole essay, this would not include a law-abiding Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noyach non-Jew. It would be a Stam Goy, or whatever you want to call him. It would not be Chasidu Mesa'olam, because we don't want to take away their merit, their zchus, seemingly. Because the whole point why you cannot take tzedakah from them is because you want their zchus, their merit, to expire and to break. Okay. So tzedakah is not like vows and donations that we do accept from them. Tzedakah we don't. Huh. That's a little bit different than what we said before. He says, because by them making vows and donations of that nature, of like sacrifices, that does not atone for them, but tzedakah atones. Now that was a problem because
This is the opposite of what we said before.
we just said before the reason why you could take it is because it's like a sacrifice, right?
It's
Which is an atonement, and that's okay. And now we're saying that no, we don't want them to have an atonement, and therefore the tzedakah you don't accept because that's an atonement, whereas yeah.
It reminds me of the two opinions on that verse that the Alter Rebbe has.
It's almost like,
But what did we look up before that we saw that was the explanation? What did we look up before that explained to us the connection why you're allowed to accept?
that was in Eurodea
In the Shulchan Aruch?
254.
There was the Shach who explained that it's like a carbon, it's like a sacrifice. And,
But there's two opinions on that verse that like the Alter Rebbe uses.
Which
There's like
verse?
the Ibn Ezra or Ibn. He does the opposite. He says that tzedakah does atone, and then the Alter Rebbe says actually the charity of nations. Not quoting verbatim. I'm sorry, but the
Chesed Lumim.
the kindness of nations is sin.
Right.
And I want to say Ibn Ezra, but he says that the sin is the same word as some kind of offering, I think, some kind of atonement.
Sin offering, okay.
Yeah, and so he says actually the charity of the nations is their atonement. It's like the
Well, there I think it's the simple interpretation of the verse as versus the Gemara's, the Talmud's interpretation. The simple meaning of the verse might mean that the kindness of the nations is their atonement. It's like a sin offering. And the Gemara, maybe somewhat homiletically, interprets the verse the opposite, that the kindness of the nations is a sin. I think that's how it goes. So I'm not sure. I don't know. It's a question.
Well, Isaiah seems to be talking about the Rishoyim. Whereas the other one seems to be talking about people, people that come into the temple with a burnt, with a sacrifice for atonement
Yeah.
or for charity would seem to be, the decent people.
We're in 27:1.
27,
11?
11.
11, thank you.
They bring out a footnote. According to one commentary, there's a difference whether it's an individual, whether it's an individual or whether it's communal. For an individual, so then there is the problem of it being disgraceful for the Jew to accept tzedakah, but it's not the problem of giving them atonement or anything like that. Whereas if it's communal, then this applies, but not the disgrace.
Communal as in non-Jew giving to the Jewish community or other?
No, I think a whole non-Jewish group, if I understand it correctly.
Oh, that makes sense. Because goyim, as in the nation, cannot atone for itself, but an individual goy can.
Maybe.
The Ramchal says that. In
Because
the Derech Hashem.
because the individuals can come,
Yeah, right. You're exactly right, Bob.
yeah.
Basically, goyim had their chance. But I think that's referring to actual nations, as in the branches of family trees.
Okay, say like this. The same shach that we saw. Tzedakah atones. Therefore, we don't accept it from them. But donations that they want to make, like to the synagogue, does not come as an atonement. We accept sacrifices. Then your question was, why is donating something to the building of a synagogue compared to a sacrifice? Back to that question.
He said that's because it atones for the person.
No, we don't accept atonement from them. We're not accepting atonement, but somehow donating to the Beis HaKnesses is like a carbon, like donating a carbon which we accept.
Is this talking about an individual non-Jew or
Yeah,
a nation?
yeah. Going back to that, the Ramah and the Shach, that if an individual guy, so we're not supposed to take tzedakah from them, but
Was that one that was billing the?
if they donate to a Beis HaKnesses, we accept it.
There's no way of really doing that in private, maybe, or because of the farhesia by nature.
That was only about the poor person taking, but for
But
the
there was
Beis
both.
HaKnesses, yeah.
But there was also a thing about privacy in public. No?
Well, if a person gives charity to an individual, that might be embarrassing to that individual, embarrassing, it creates an embarrassment. But if the same person gives the money to the synagogue, it shouldn't create the same level of embarrassment. It shouldn't create embarrassment for
Maybe
the
something
synagogue.
to do with Darkei Shalom. For the sake of peace, maybe.
Okay, it goes through the Taz goes through the whole discussion of this verse. Bivoish Ketzirati Shavarna. He says when their merit of the non-Jews will finish, so then they'll break. So he says, so why are you allowed to accept from them in private, and we're not worried about their merit? So he said, if an individual accepts, since he's deriving benefit, it's permissible. But the Gabbai, who's collecting tzedakah, he has no benefit from it, so he's not allowed to cause a merit for the non-Jew for someone else. If it's an individual himself, it's the poor person himself, so then don't worry about giving him the merit or not. You need the money, so accept it. But if it's only the Gabbai, you can't give the goy the schus, the merit, for the sake of a financial gain of a different person, of another Jew.
Is the word for merit there?
Zchus.
Zuchus?
Zchus.
Zuchus.
And then he says, that's strange, because how can we allow him to prolong exile for his benefit? And therefore, it seems to me that this verse does not apply unless the non-Jew is having in mind specifically to give it for the poor Jews. That's where you get the schus. That's where he's going to have a big schus. But as long as that's not his intention, if he's just giving it to the person who distributes it tzedakah, but he doesn't know if it's going to go to the poor Jews or poor non-Jews, he just wants it to go to the poor. That's okay. But if he specifically wants it to go to the poor Jews, that's the problem. That'll give him a big schus.
Was that the Taz on the right there?
Yeah. Well, Taz is on the inside and Shach's on the outside. So it depends which page you're on. It's not right and left.
Oh, it's on inside close
It's
to
like
the
Rashi and
binding.
Tosfos, yeah, inside and outside. Aval melech oisar goy. However, a king or high-ranking officer who's not Jewish, sheshalach mol tzedakah, who sent money for tzedakah. Ein machzirim loy, we don't return it to him mishum shlei malchus because of peace. Elo noiti mimenu v'nosan l'nei goyim, but you take it from him and you give it to the poor of the goyim. Yeshomim shenosim b'seisa, some say give it in private, secretly. Shleishma melech, so that the king does not hear about it. That's what we saw. V'yeshomim, some say shav b'seisa also, that even private you can't do it. Shas ligim das abris, because you're not allowed to deceive people. He gave it for the Jewish poor. If you're going to take that money and give it, even secretly, he won't find out about it. So some say that's a problem called gneva stas. You're deceiving someone. Only thing is that the goyim know that the Jewish people are accustomed to giving tzedakah to the poor non-Jews as well. Therefore, do as he said and give the tzedakah to whatever he designated it for. Because if the king clearly specified, give it to the poor Jews, then you must do that. And likewise, if he sent the money for redeeming people, then you know he meant it for Jews, to redeem Jews, and therefore do that. So give it for the Jewish purposes. All right, I would stop here, but since we have just one more little piece before we get to the new piece, so let's just do the next one. Okay, one more paragraph. Goy shenadar benazir. A certain type of a vow is the Nazirite. That is in Bamidbar, in Parshas Nasoi, so it's the book of Numbers, and it is in chapter
'Funny. I said it's funny. It's funny to me.
Chapter 6. Numbers, chapter 6. Okay, so there's a concept of a Nazir. That if a person says he takes upon himself to be a Nazir, that's a very specific vow, and then he is forbidden to drink wine or eat grapes or raisins or any wine derivative, grape juice. He is forbidden to become defiled tamei, to a mess, to a corpse, and he is forbidden to cut his hair. Those are the restrictions. It's a specific type of vow called Nazir. So how about if a guy makes a vow? He says, behold, I am a Nazir. Ein Nazirus chala, all of the Nazirus does not apply, does not go into effect on him. Shenemar b'parshas Nazirus, because it says in this section, when the Torah speaks about the Nazirite, Daber el b'nei Yisrael, speak unto the children of Israel, v'lo hagoyim, and that's to exclude the non-Jews. That is how the Talmud clearly interprets it. And that's the ruling of the Rambam as well. V'oid shenemar b'nazir, furthermore, it says with regards to the Nazir, la'aviv u'lima lo yitama, to his father and his mother, he's not allowed to become impure. So in other words, if the person's in the middle of his Nazirus, he's a Nazir, and his father or mother died, he's not allowed to become defiled to them. Even a priest, a kohen, is allowed to become defiled, has a mitzvah to become impure if it's his own father or mother. A Nazir is not allowed to. So from that we learn out, that's only somebody who can become tamei. That excludes a goy, because a goy can't become tamei, because all the rules of purity and impurity of tuma and tahara don't apply by a goy. So that would be a way of excluding the goy from being a Nazir.
That are just really easy to do.
Huh?
Which is really easy to do, because he said he can't be tamei, and Nazir can't be tamei, right?
A Nazir is not allowed to become tamei.
Yeah, so it's
so it has
really
to be someone who, it's got to be someone who could become tamei.
Oh, okay.
Or alternatively, shekevin shenemar b'nazir la'aviv, since by the Nazir it says to his father and mother he can't become defiled. So that would only apply to somebody who's got a father as far as inheritance is concerned. Meaning someone who's able to give over an inheritance all of those things that the Torah speaks about, where it speaks about the laws of inheritance. And when it comes to owning what type of property? Slaves. So there the verse states clearly, that you are to give them over as an inheritance to your children after you. But a goy cannot give as an inheritance, that will not transfer his slaves. The real estate will go, fine. The movable objects, fine. The money, all those properties, and when the goy dies, his son inherits it, not avodim. If the goy owned avodim, when he dies, those avodim, those slaves, do not go to his son. So since the Torah says, le'aviv,
We're talking about Israel dinam, dinam Yisrael, or what now?
no, we're saying that because of the pasuk,
Yeah.
so that means that if a goy owns an eved, according to Din Torah, that eved does not go to his son.
Okay.
So we have three ways of excluding the goy from Nazirus. Everybody agrees that the rule of Nazirus does not apply to a goy, and a goy cannot be a Nazir. Either simply because it says Bnei Yisrael, or because it says do not become defiled tamei to father or mother, so he can't become tamei, that doesn't apply, or because it mentions father, and it means it has to be all the rules of father have to apply, and since it's by an evidence. All right, that brings us to the top of Shin Yud Aleph, page 311, and that we will leave for next time with the help of Hashem. And we still have much to go in this entry in the topic of Goy. We still have many pages to go.
Really? Wow.
Many pages.
I need to find a copy of this.
Yeah, so until next time, everybody behave and keep the 7 mitzvahs and bring Mashiach now.